Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today, we're doing a follow-up video because I screamed my question out into the void, and surprisingly, the void answered back in clearly and logically well-thought-out argument. So let's take a look at this. I think it was a week or two ago now, I did a video asking the question, what was with that panel in chapter number 2 where Kafka, basically his pectoral regions stream out 2 streams of some high temperature liquid. And at the time, he said quite simply, I think I gotta take a leak. And I wondered about that because that was nearly 3 pages for the build-up, the performance and the payoff to that joke, and it did serve the purpose of being body horror and showing how little the character Kafka understood about his body, and it was a slapstick joke, but that's 2 very petty reasons for why you are going to spend 3 whole pages for the setup and payoff to one silly little bodily fluids joke. Now, one of the things that makes Kaiju number 8 not unique, but unusual is how few panels it has. So every panel is super precious. So why spend that many panels? Well, I asked that, I theorized a couple things, and then Reddit answered me in the form of cold and concerned. And he referenced my video, thank you, and then he goes into a very clearly thought out answer that was so obvious in retrospect that I have to wonder why I didn't see it, but I guess it's just a testimony to how much information is packed into this manga that even after reading and rereading it, I had completely missed this. So anyway, this is the setup. This is the scene where Kafka has to take a leak and it comes out his nipples. So what happened was he and Reno escaped from the hospital. They're running down the streets. Kafka's body in the Kaiju number 8 form goes into that freakish transform where his lower mass becomes a mass of writhing tentacles as he's running along, and his hands get all wobbly and lose their definition, and those 3 is like a horrific version, a cross between a Russian nesting doll and the creepy congested river spirit from Spirited Away start growing out of the back of his head. And Reno asks him, are you really sure you're you? And Kafka's like, I'm having questions myself now. Then Kafka's mouth opens, this Kaiju number 8, and a second mouth comes out a la, what is it that does that? It's not Predator, it's Alien, where the second mouth comes out of the tongue thing in the mouth. Anyway, the second mouth shoots out, grabs a crow or a raven or some kind of night bird off of a lamppost, and Kafka calls out, hey, look, I'm eating a bird alive. And Reno goes, that's sick, sir, just sick. And so Kaiju number 8 finishes eating the raven, transform back down in size, and then Kafka says, oh no, we got another problem. And Reno's like, what is it now, sir? And Kafka's like, I gotta take a leak. And Kafka's like, and Reno's, I beg you, hold it in. But then Kafka can't hold it in, and 2 streams of heated liquid come spilling out of his pectoral regions, where on a human the nipples would be. And there's a whole panel just of Kaiju number 8's reaction to this, the horrified reaction, where his mouth opens and he's just freaked out. And so he freaks out, Reno freaks out, Kafka literally throws himself on the ground, covers up his pectoral regions, and makes a funny joke. Reno starts to physically drag him out of the way from where the Defense Force officers are going to show up. And then the story moves on. And on the surface, we don't see it referenced again. But as Cold and Concern very clearly points out, we do see it referenced again. The payoff actually comes fairly quickly. So what we have here, or rather, chapter 2, it was from we don't see the actual payoff for this until the mid-20s when Kaiju number 10 shows up. But anyway, so yeah, that was months of storytelling without the payoff. And the payoff doesn't hit till there's hints, but they're only useful hints in retrospect. Yeah, that was nearly that was nearly 24 chapters between that. Divide that by 3, that's 8. Near 8 months between the initial joke and the payoff for it. That is some seriously well thought out long-term writing, and so very worth it. Anyway, Cold and Concerned points out, we see this we know that kaiju can gigantify, and in real life, if an animal gigantifies, it would cook and it would just melt into a puddle or explode, because the heat generated from gigantification but from a small animal growing up that large would cause its body to superheat and cook from the inside out. And Cold and Concerned provided an awesome link. You can go find it in his Reddit post. It explains exactly why this happened. And this is just another testament to how much Kaiju number 8 cares about actual physics. So, but how does that apply? How does gigantification apply here? So when Kaiju number 10 needs to gigantify to defeat Vice Captain Hoshina, Vice Captain Hoshina has to deal with the superheated steam pouring out of his body. And Vice Captain Hoshina notes that, yeah, it's a good thing he got him into the training area. And so how Kaiju number 10 counters the heat from gigantification is that he apparently has massive water reserves in his body, and the water reserves superheat, and he ejects the water out of every portion of his body, out in every direction. He floods the area around him with steam, which is actually a pretty decent defense, as well as helping cool his body down so the gigantification process doesn't kill him. This even applies to the battle swords worn by the Japanese Defense Force. You will note there's those two little bead-like things on the collars on either side of the zipper of Vice Captain Hoshina, Mina. Now, when Vice Captain Hoshina reaches his overheat and Kaiju number 10 punches him, as Vice Captain Hoshina is sitting there slumped, you see 2 jets of steam coming out of his suit. And after Mina is done shooting off all those shots at the Kaiju and her suit is on the verge of overheat, remember, her limit is 5. She can only fire that super cannon of hers 5 times. Then, when she's done, hers release a vent of steam as well. So clearly, even the thin layer of Kaiju muscle fiber needs to vent that steam. And then Cold and Concerned goes into why this is necessary and what an overheat means and why it was so painful, or why their eyes blank out and we see them in excruciating pain when Kikoru and Vice Captain Hoshina overheat. And it's when a human overheats and their muscles get too hot, you get spasms. And if you've ever had a muscle spasm, you know they can be painful. I literally had my leg nearly tear itself apart from a Charlie horse while I was sleeping one night because my mineral content was off. And so if these muscle suits that are superpowered start spasming, it could be like crushing their wearers, and they probably have safety devices to keep them from killing them, but that has got to be an excruciatingly painful experience. So any Kaiju body can overheat, and it's going to be a horrible, painful experience. So what we're actually seeing was this first little bit of world building, where we see that Kaiju number 8, when he goes from gigantic to miniature, must release steam. Now, there have been also a lot of clues in here that the Kaiju that causes Kaiju number 8, little guy, the bug Kaiju that crawled in Kafka's mouth, seems to be taking his cues from Kafka. And interestingly enough, we never see this steam venting process happen again. Now, we don't see it often in the Defense Force suits, so it's quite possible that this is just something that it happens off screen. However, the little guy seems to respond to Kafka's emotions. Kafka has very strong emotions about Daikaiju and Reno, and that could very well be what causes the little guy to hate Kaiju, because the Kaiju number 9 beat up Reno, so the Daikaiju are evil in his brain, because the little guy does not seem to be very intelligent, but he has strong emotions about both Kaiju and protecting people. So, could it be that the little guy, Kaiju number 8, when he experienced that extreme negative emotional reaction from venting steam, decided that he either wasn't going to get large anymore or wasn't going to vent steam anymore? The first one isn't a problem. The second one is very, very problematic, because if Kaiju number 8 has been traumatized by Kafka's mental emotion to a perfectly natural bodily process, he might try to stifle that perfectly natural bodily process. And if you go to chapter 37, the very first chapter, you see that panel looks very interesting to me, because it looked like Kaiju number 8 was suffering in his gigantic form. But how he was suffering, his mouth is gaping open. That big mouth that goes back into the neck, it's not closed. It's gaping open, and Kaiju number 8 is hunched over. Now, if a human were drawn that way, I would expect them to be sweating and gasping for breath, basically just overheating and unable to cool down. So, what if Kaiju number 8 doesn't want to vent steam anymore because he thinks it's bad because of the super negative emotions emotion that Kafka had? And what if that is causing him to overheat while fighting the Director General, even as the Director General is overheating? Anyway, that's just kind of a side theory. I just want to say thank you to Cold and Concern for answering my questions. That was I had a lot of fun talking with you, and hopefully we'll have a chance to collaborate again in the future. Kafka's pectoral tinkling is actually steam venting so that he doesn't cook himself after the process of gigantification. All right, go check out my books. Humans Are Weird. I have the data. The audiobook is available, and if you email me, I can sell it to you now personally, but if you want it for your Amazon, your iTunes, or your Kindle, not Kindle, audiobook, Amazon audiobook, or Audible or iTunes, you'll have to wait until Amazon gets done verifying the sound quality is good enough. Until that time, check out the links below the video, and peace out, my wonderful viewers.
The book from author Betty Adams, Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, is a humorous look at human behavior through the eyes of aliens. This book is arranged in separate reports or essays, documenting the experiences with humanity through the lens of the aliens who have to interact with them. This anthology of short stories and vignettes from alien points of view highlights some of humanity's quirks we can all relate to. Author Betty Adams captures how strange and interesting humans can really be. This is a fun collection of stories you will really get a kick out of. Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, from author Betty Adams. Order your copy right now on Amazon.